I am here with a absolute Chicago legend, my really good friend, one of the major voices in combat sports. If you love boxing, you know my guy, Ray Flores. Ray, thank you for coming on, man.
Mike, I need to pay you for that introduction. Far from a legend, but you know what? We all grew up together in the Chicagoland area, and we're all doing things. I mean, you're in the Los Angeles area, Huntington Beach. I'm still in Chicago, went to LA for a while, bouncing around all over the place. So we're really fortunate to do what we love to do. And the bottom line is, you and I, we love fighting, whether it be boxing, MMA, both. I mean, let's get it going, man.
For people who don't know, Ray, we came out of the Chicago scene a decade ago, right? Before
Mhm.
this was cool. You were in the cage doing the ring announcing. You were even doing color commentary at the time, or play-by-play commentary at the time. And I've just slowly seen you just work for more promotions. I mean, I remember seeing you when I saw you on stage with McGregor Mayweather, and you were hosting the press conference. I was like, Ray made it. That's my guy up there, man. It's been so cool, even from the outside, to see your success, Ray. I'm in awe, man.
Oh, well, likewise, man. I mean, I've been watching you since you literally were coming around with, MMA websites in Chicago, literally
Right.
growing them from the ground up and then transitioning to commentary. And now with your media empire that you are growing and developing, in Los Angeles, covering major MMA events all over. It's great to see, man. You know what? We're only beginning because we're
I
still
think so.
relatively young in our age. And I mean, you a lot younger than me, but you know what? We just gained a lot of experience, and the more that we get to cover and see, the better we're going to become. It's like a fighter. The more world title fights you get into, the better you're going to be, and the more maturity you're going to have moving forward.
I'm 30 this year, Ray. Easy now. I'm married, my brother. I don't know about you, Ray, but I'm feeling old these days. I see you staying young. I saw you over at Joy District with Mike Jabber.
It's
Life
my
is a
man.
movie over there, I hear.
Bro, we did. What I love about what they're doing over there is that Mike, as you know, is such a big, he's a former fighter and got into the gym, still has a great gym, but now is in the nightclub industry at the top nightclub in the city, Joy District.
Yeah,
And
it is.
he came to me and was like, "Hey man, we want to show the Tyson Fury Dillian Whyte fight. Are you in town?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Why don't you host this party for me?" Then he's like, "Hey, are you in town for Canelo fight?" The fact that he's investing in a sport and in a world that he doesn't have to. And it's him who's doing it. And we're bringing fight fans together at the hottest nightclub in the city. And it's just great, man. And I mean, we're having fun. I'm 35, but I feel like I'm 25. And when I'm around Mike Jabber, I feel like I'm 22, 23 in the prime of my life. So I owe him a lot.
I better be careful around Mike. Yeah, he's got a lot to look at over there at Joy District. So wonderful thing he's got going on over there. Shout out to Mike Jabber and Joy
Yes.
District. Why not? Good people.
No doubt about it, man. Yeah, I'm a single guy, so that certainly plays into my favor. So, but let's move on in that regard. Let's not get in trouble.
I need to be careful. Yeah, Mike's a good guy. As you know, I used to work for him and whatnot. Listen, Ray, you brought up the fight, so we're going right into it. The first one we'll talk about, one of my favorite fighters, Tyson Fury, was able to get a domination over the body snatcher. I mean, I thought it was a good matchup. I, of course, had Tyson winning it. I didn't expect a one-punch knockout uppercut quite like that. What did you think of that fight?
I thought Fury was going to dominate the fight because I thought Dillian Whyte was talented. But to me, after what I saw Tyson Fury do over the past three fights against Deontay Wilder, and I called every single one of those fights for the international audience. The last two, my dear friend Christina Panchu does a wonderful job and is certainly a pioneer when it comes to combat sports for women, as she's a play-by-play commentator. So I think that what we saw to Tyson Fury, it did not surprise me because the wars that he had, or the domination that he had against Deontay Wilder, the second fight, the war that he had in the third fight back in October, two knockdowns each, and Fury getting the stoppage in the 12th. That was one of the best fights that I've ever seen in my life. It was a
Yeah.
modern day Rocky movie come to life. But what he did against Dillian Whyte in front of 94,000 people at Wembley Stadium in London just goes to show you the brilliance of Tyson Fury. And did I anticipate him doing that one punch knockout? No. But did it surprise me? No, because the Gypsy King is the best heavyweight in the world. You have Tyson Fury, and then you got Deontay Wilder. In my estimation, if Fury wasn't in the picture, Deontay Wilder would be universally known as the best heavyweight in the world. But Tyson Fury is the man. And he's talking about retiring. He's saying, oh, I'm enjoying retirement, this and that. Come on, Tyson. Let's be real here. You are in the prime of your life. You just got past one fight ago, Deontay Wilder. Now, who is there left for you to fight? Well, there's a potential matchup between him and Alexander Usyk and the winner of Joshua. They're going to fight in July, potentially unify the heavyweight division. I think that's the last stone unturned for the Gypsy King.
Yeah, it's sort of like the other end of the bracket in the heavyweight division, right? And they've got to come up and eventually figure all that out. Ray, it was nice to see the body snatcher fight, though, because Dillian Whyte has, a history with Anthony Joshua, and we've sort of seen him on that end of the bracket, right?
Yes.
And so it's been interesting to see the little bit of a crossover there. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I got this narrative wrong, Ray. Tyson Fury was as fat as a house, and he was, on the verge of ending his life. He was in terrible shape, ends up getting in shape, wants to come back and box. So he's looking at the heavyweight division, and he sees this sloppy power puncher in Deontay Wilder. Ridiculous power, of course, but it seemed like the entire comeback here, this entire journey, was all about Tyson Fury beating Deontay Wilder because he knew he could do it. I know he talked about the Anthony Joshua fight, and I know that was, also on the docket maybe, but it all seemed to be about beating Deontay Wilder. And of course, he does a trilogy with Deontay, where, the first one's a draw, and the next two, Tyson was able to show us what he's really capable of. So, it seemed like Tyson's like the worst matchup in the world for Deontay Wilder. I'm not sure that's the case with Usyk. I'm not even sure that's the case with Joshua. It's almost like he finds himself in this position now where he accomplished everything he wanted to. Now what? Do you see it that way, that Tyson Fury really just came back to beat Wilder, get the green belt, right? And then coast. He sort of accomplished what he wanted to, Ray.
I think what he was thinking in terms of, because, I've gotten to know Tyson Fury or be around him in over the course of, December of 18 was the first fight. February of 20 was the second fight. And October of 21 was the third fight. So I'm kind of been around and kind of seeing him, during fight weeks and stuff. And especially the last two fights. So you kind of get an idea personally how they are. And I'll say this about Tyson Fury. I think that he wanted to come back to fight Deontay Wilder because of the ridiculous, scary power of Wilder. Not necessarily the path of least resistance, the fact that he's like, you know what? This dude is an absolute savage. This guy's talking about putting bodies on his record and smashing guys. Tyson Fury is nuts. He is psychotic. And he wanted to put himself in the most possible area of danger because it excites him. He's a different kind of human. I'll give you a quick story. I was in the car, and this is one of the many things that I love about our business, about why we are such a small, whether it be boxing, MMA, or both, because there is crossover. People are like, oh, there's no crossover. Am I allowed to curse on the show once?
Fuck yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Well, if people say there's no crossover, I'm going to say bullshit. There is crossover. There's quite a bit of it, because I see guys that are cutmen in the UFC be cutmen in boxing, or I see a guy like Rudy Hernandez, who's a wonderful cutman, who was the trainer of Ryota Murata, and I saw Rudy Hernandez in Japan when I did the fight with Golovkin and Murata back a few months or last month. So there is crossover, but I was in the car with Javon Sugarhill, the lead trainer of Tyson Fury, back in February of last year. So February of 21. And I asked him about the fight with Fury and Wilder, the second fight. I go, nobody could have anticipated Fury moving forward, backing up Wilder and doing what he did. And Sugarhill told me, he said, he goes, Tyson listened to me. He goes, it's one thing to put it on paper and to plan it, but it's another thing to have a guy who is mentally ready to give away any inhibition and go out and do that and walk into the line of fire, because it takes a special kind of human and athlete to do that. And that's what Sugar Hill told me about Tyson Fury. So I think it's the fact that Fury was like, let me come back. And it's funny because I've sort of watched this. We actually did the Tyson Fury. He fought Sefer Seferi when he came back in June of 18. And it was over in the UK, but I was calling the fight for Showtime Digital from the Staples Center in Los Angeles alongside Chris Mannix. And Fury looked okay, but it wasn't anything earth-shattering. But I think Wilder saw the fact that Fury had said, I'm the lineal champion. And Wilder liked the personality, or was intrigued by the personality of Tyson Fury, and said, you know what? I like this guy. This guy is different. He's unique. I need a big challenge. Let's fight Tyson Fury. Then it's the fact of not only let's fight Tyson Fury, but let's do Los Angeles. Let's do Staples Center. December of 18. The British fans were rocking. Hollywood came out. It was a special night, and it was a special fight. And I think after that fight, they both were like, you know what? I don't like that guy, but that guy makes me better. He brings out the best in me. And we saw that indication in the third fight as both men tested each other to the limits.
What an incredible trilogy. I mean, it'll go down in boxing history. And, you know, just to clarify, one of the reasons I said what I said there was because Tyson Fury himself was talking about a conversation he was having where they're like, if you can't come back and beat that bum, that dosser, Deontay Wilder, of course, we're talking rude now, but it's not my words.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't come back and beat that bum, then you never were the best anyway. You know, and that type of mindset, you could tell, is what stews with Tyson Fury. He wants to come back and show what he's capable of. That he did. I mean, Ray, the guy does not look like an athlete, and his defense is the best in heavyweight history. I don't know. It's so hard to punch that guy in the face. It is just incredible. I mean, speak to the skill there, because you've called Tyson Fury fights. As you've said, you've got to hang out with him quite a bit. How the hell is he either A, that athletic, or is it just that he's been boxing since he was a baby, obviously named after the great Mike Tyson? Something is going on with how that big man is able to move, where he is able to slip shots so well. I mean, I'll go out on a limb here. His defense at heavyweight looked better to me than Canelo's did on Saturday. Am I crazy?
No, I mean he's really hard to hit, and there's, even when he does get drilled, there's a way in terms of how he gets drilled that he's able to not necessarily absorb the full impact. There's a point, and I'll try to find this clip for you, but there is a point in the third fight against Deontay Wilder where he got knocked down. I forgot what knockdown it was, but he was coming forward and he had a brace for impact because Wilder was getting ready to throw a right hand, literally was like this and was getting ready. And Fury had his chin, he had his gloves like this, and he had his chin up in the air. He tucked his chin. So then the shot landed on his forehead and it dropped him. But Fury admits after the fight, he goes, if I would not have tucked my chin, I would have still been asleep. Listen to that mindset. The fact that you are literally getting ready to get punched in the skull by the most devastating hitter in the heavyweight division in probably 15 years. And it's such a short amount of time, like literally milliseconds, you're like, I got to tuck my chin because if not, it's game over. And he got dropped. And he still got up. I mean, it was remarkable. So even there are times where he doesn't get hit. But to me, what impresses me more is when he does get hit, the fact that he does not absorb the full impact of a shot. And those are all little intricacies, Mike, that you talk about on your show that I mentioned in my commentary, that are the little nuances that determine whether or not you are victorious or whether you're the loser.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, I think my favorite Tyson Fury fight, it's just a domination. It's just fun to watch what he's able to do. Tommy Schwartz, do I have the name right?
Yeah, Tommy Schwartz.
Geez, his head movement, hands behind the back. I mean, just kind of moving with the shots as they're coming by him. It's a whole other level when you're trying to punch Tyson Fury in the face. And Ray, I remember that exact sequence. You're talking about the third Wilder fight where he's coming forward, eats that shot on the forehead and goes down. For those who don't know, this is the most dense bone in your body, either the most dense or the thickest bone in your body right here. So this is a pretty good spot to take a punch for MMA fans. You know, Nick Diaz was headbutting the jab of BJ Penn. He was headbutting the jabs. Yes, you don't see people throwing their jaw into a jab. So it is not the worst spot to take a punch. When you're in there with Deontay Wilder, you know, it's life or death whether or not you're getting hit with that right hand.
You're so right. So those are the things that impress me about Tyson Fury, and one of the reasons why I pick him over any other heavyweight in the world. So I don't want to see him go away. Like, no way, don't do it. Like, what are you doing? Like, you just got past the man in Wilder. So now let's see really your reign over the course of the next few years. But again, I'm not him.
I think Usyk's a tough fight for him, no?
I think he is, but I think Usyk is too small for him. And I think Fury is just, I've been around some massive human beings. And Tyson Fury is one of the biggest dudes. And I know people say, oh, well, he looks out of shape. That dude is thick. He has such thick bone structure. And you could tell that, man, if this guy wanted to chokeslam me through whatever, he could do it with one hand and destroy me. Imagine being between those two behemoths in Wilder and Fury. I'm just like, man, we were doing the grand arrivals in October and we brought him out. I'm like, I got one giant and I got another giant. It's like, what is this, pro wrestling?
It looks like it when those two square up. And Wilder got bigger over that time period. You remember, Ray, yes. Wilder was weighing in like he could make a cut to light heavyweight the first time he fought Tyson Fury. And then slowly he just kept in that weight room and just put on all that muscle. I don't know that it necessarily helped him. You know, it seems like maybe if Wilder could carry his power a little better, actually, when he was lighter and the cardio was better. But regardless, Tyson Fury was able to dominate those fights. Ray, one last thing on Tyson Fury, and everybody loves him, so I'll try to pick on him a little bit here. Dude's got a big body. It seemed like Body Snatcher was actually landing some hard shots to his body.
Yeah.
Wouldn't Usyk be able to at least score points on that body? And don't you think it's an under-targeted let me say that a different way. Don't you think that there is a potential game plan that people can employ to target Tyson's body and move? I haven't seen anybody do that effectively or even try.
Wilder tried to do it in the third fight. If you remember, he was sticking that jab, that stabbing jab to the body in the first few rounds. But then styles make fights. So these two guys know each other so well that once they started throwing bombs, everything went out the window. So
it just became a fight.
It's just like they're like, hey, it was like a gunfight at the OK Corral. I'm going to bring my best weapon. You're going to bring your best weapon, draw, and away we go. When it comes to Usyk, he is very intellectual. He's smart. And honestly, Usyk, I would have to say, and this sounds awful for me to say, but like Usyk is not normal either. You look at some of his antics as he kind of comes up behind Bob Arum and, when Arum was at fights and some of the things that he does, he's just a unique personality. He's out there in many aspects. So I think Fury is the most polarizing figure in the heavyweight division. That's my political correctness way to protect myself. And then you have the second unique personality in Alexander Usyk. I think Usyk will try that, but Usyk's got to be past Anthony Joshua. And I know that people are saying, oh, well, the second fight should be easy. My estimation is Anthony Joshua is a proven winner, and I'm not ready to write off champions. The one thing I think, and this is just a big topic in general, when guys lose once or twice, as a society, specifically in the fight game, we're ready to write them off.
Yeah.
Especially in boxing. I
was going to say specifically in your sport.
More so than MMA, because we have seen the likes of Masvidal and, the Charles Oliveira's come out and really blossom and have this unbelievable run over the course of their careers, in the second half of their careers, even with the losses. In boxing, it's almost like, well, people look at Floyd and they set him as the standard. Well, Floyd was one of one. Do not compare yourself to the great Floyd Mayweather. It's okay to lose once or twice. And with Anthony Joshua, people wrote him off after he lost Andy Ruiz the first time. What happens? He comes back, he wins his championship, and he lost to Usyk. Okay, no problem. Now they're running it back again. Joshua is a former champion, two-time heavyweight champion of the world. I'm not ready to count him out. The guy is in great shape. He's determined. And again, until you go ahead and we see the champion lose again, I'm not ready to write him off. I don't like writing off guys, period. And people are wondering, oh, where's Wilder at? Where's Wilder at? Well, Wilder has made over probably $100 million, if not more. I think he's okay. If he wants to come back, he'll come back. And I think with Usyk, it's not a guarantee that he's going to be Joshua. But does an Usyk Fury fight interest me? You bet your ass it does, because I think it would be a heck of a fight and stylistically very different.
Hell yeah. And, I hear the criticism that Tyson actually doesn't do as well with the smaller opponents. Somebody who's quick, who has good boxing skill is actually a tougher fight for Tyson. And, to bounce off what you said, everybody loses in MMA. All the champions have losses. It's very rare to see a Khabib Nurmagomedov. And let's be honest, Khabib didn't stick around as long as he could. We have no idea how he would do if he tried to defend his title as many times as John Jones and George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva have. So, it seems to be almost more acceptable to lose in mixed martial arts. Ray, I wonder if you could put your finger on it. Why? Why do the sports treat their athletes so differently when it comes to, when a boxer has a loss, it's like their career's over or something.
Yeah.
And of course we'll get into what happened over this weekend, but just in general, Ray, why do you think it is that in MMA, Justin Gaethje could have, let's go right to Masvidal, double-digit losses, but he's selling, huge pay-per-views with Kamaru Usman in a rematch with a fight he already lost? Like, what's the difference?
I just think it's the fact that MMA was from the beginning, it was accepted it's okay to lose. So, you look at what we saw, and even going back, and I'm going old school, not really old school, because we're talking old school to me is like UFC 4 and 5, but I'm kind of going old school MMA here with what I'm getting ready to tell you. When George St. Pierre lost to Matt Serra, and GSP was having this unbelievable run, and he loses to Serra, and Serra just had the moment of his life. I mean, just made himself a UFC legend after that win. And I'm sitting there, I think we're watching the fight at a Hooters of all places, and we're like, oh my God, it's crazy. What in the world just happened? When we saw the likes of, guys like Chuck Liddell lose, like when Rampage Jackson knocked him out, it was like, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me? Like, what? We're going old school, man. I mean, but I think that it's a custom, and it's okay based on the audience, how they were built. When it comes to boxing, you look at the likes of the Rocky Marcianos of the world. You look at even the great Julio Cesar Chavez, my favorite fighter of all time. The fact that I think he went like 88, 89-0 before suffering defeat at the hands of the late great Frankie Randall. The fact of, the Mayweather, what he was able to do. I think that that's what it is. Even people still talk about the first loss in the career of Mike Tyson. I mean, I was just in Japan, and people are still talking about, hey, this is, across the street. This is the hotel. I was walking through the garden of the hotel that Mike Tyson stayed at. People are like, this is where Mike Tyson stayed before he lost his first fight to Buster Douglas here in Japan. Like, that just goes to show you the gravity of what one single loss does to a boxer. It's insane. It's a narrative I'm trying to change, because I am on the broadcasting side. In the media, I talk to individuals like you. I'm trying to change that. I talk to fighters, and I've seen guys lose once or twice, and I tell them, I'm like, listen, it's okay to lose. You had a bad night. Let's talk in general. When you mean to tell me that you go to whatever job it is that you do 5 or 6 days a week, and you mean to tell me over the course of 1 month, you don't have one bad day or one day that isn't as exceptional as the other? It's okay to have a bad day. NFL sports. There's how many NFL teams have gone 16-0 and have run the gamut and won the Super Bowl?
One? Did the Patriots do it?
Dolphins.
No, I'm sorry, the Dolphins, of course. The Patriots lost the Super Bowl that year. That's
crazy, dude. Crazy. Like, it's insane.
Right. 100%.
Well, I'm trying to change it, man.
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that. You're in a position where we're narrative creators when we're on that microphone. We start grassroots narratives. So that's a powerful thing. And let's go right into it, brother. There was a loss this weekend. a great champion. Great champion doesn't even encompass it. I mean, the number one, most commendable and recognizable number one pound for pound boxer in my lifetime, I think, Canelo Alvarez, the guy who did not do what Floyd did. And let's criticize Floyd for a second here. Floyd had that Manny Pacquiao fight, and it was going to be the biggest fight in boxing. What did he do? He iced him, right? He waited for Manny to go lose to, I think, Marquez and whoever. So, he didn't fight the guys at the time. Canelo, I have never seen that from. Canelo goes up in weight. Canelo likes to go and challenge himself. He fought a light heavyweight champion who was not going to wilt to him, and on Cinco de Mayo weekend loses and falls from grace as the number one pound for pound fighter in boxing. Ray, you're a proud Mexican. You got to be a Canelo fan.
Yes.
Give me your thoughts.
Look, it's okay. It's one of those things. It's okay to lose. What really upset me, and I had, the club appearance at Joy District, so I was attending all that, watching the fight. It's taken me a few days to process it. But what I have seen in social media, it's kind of disgusting to me because people are pointing out the flaws and some of the things that Canelo did wrong. I think the narrative of this fight is that people didn't realize how good Bivol was. I was not anticipating Bivol being that good. I knew he was. I actually, again, show it in history. I ring announced his U.S. debut on American television on Showbox. Right? No. And it was like, here is this Russian kid. I think he's half Korean, and his manager, Vadim Korniev, who I've known since the days of Ruslan Provodnikov, the Siberian Rocky, brings this kid over, light heavyweight, very fundamentally sound. When I watched people the first time, I'm like, here's a big, strong kid, excellent condition, very good shape, fantastic fundamentals. Always in a good position to strike and to throw shots. Doesn't really get hurt much. Has wonderful defense, quality footwork, and is just sturdy. A strong 175-pounder. Very strong light heavyweight. Not overly strong. Does he do anything great? No. But he does a lot of things good and well. He's just solid fundamentally. He's one of those guys that's going to frustrate you because he has such good ring awareness, ring IQ, fundamentals, and he knows when to pick his spots. He knows what his strengths are. He knows what his weaknesses are, and he works within the framework of those limitations, and he knows how to highlight his strengths and hide his weaknesses. Against Canelo Alvarez, I don't know if Canelo thought that the weight difference was going to be that much because he beat Sergey Kovalev a couple years ago. And that was that was a fun fight too, but he was able to overpower Kovalev in the championship rounds. I think that Canelo might have been in the mindset that he could do the exact same thing to Dimitri Bivol. He did that against Caleb Plant, if you remember, back in November of last year when he became the unified super middleweight champion of the world. He turned it on from like the 7th round on. And Canelo was probably the mindset that, okay, the first 4 to 5 rounds, and I thought the same thing. I said the first 4 rounds are going to be competitive. But in my estimation, in the middle of the 5th round on, he's going to kick it into another gear. But here's the thing that people fail to realize and are not really talking about much. And I've talked to several strength and conditioning coaches and nutritionists about this in the lead up to the fight. I didn't make it a big deal because I'm like, this is the number one pound for pound fighter. Who am I to say what I think works and what doesn't? Why? Because I've never stepped in the ring before. But here's the thing. The fact that I believe he went vegan for this fight, if I'm correct, Mike. So I think he went vegan for this fight. And I talked to a couple of strength and conditioning coaches, and what they told me is that when you go ahead and do that, then, it doesn't work well for you. And yeah, he did go vegan in this fight, Mike. So I talked to several strength and conditioning coaches, and they told me, my man, that when you do that, you should do it not when you're getting ready for a fight. You should do it when you're not preparing for a fight, because it takes you some time. Your body, you're going from eating meat and using that as fuel, and your workouts are X way. I'm not saying that this is the reason for the loss, but I think it contributed a little bit more, along with the fact that Bivol was just better than him. So Bivol was the better man. 2, I don't think Canelo went out there and did what he was supposed to do. and 3, the vegan diet. But that's not really being talked about because Canelo looked a bit slow. He didn't look like and have the same spark and pop and energy in that second half of the fight against Bivol. And why is that? Well, in my estimation, it's because he went to that vegan diet and it's taken his body. You're putting your body in a state of shock. And I think that's what might have happened, is that his body wasn't able to properly adjust. And then his mind's thinking one way, but his body is not able to fully push itself. People don't realize in a prize fight, you have to push your body to limits that we don't know as humans. That's why I like to say 0.1%, not 1%,
Seriously.
0.1% of the population on this earth are world champions and can say that they do what these guys have done at the highest level under the lights with millions of dollars on the line. So I think that is the third key as to why Canelo lost, because we saw an effect in his conditioning in the second half of that fight against Bivol. Again, Bivol was the better man, and Bivol would have beaten him whether he was on a vegan diet or was eating steak and moose and whatever, elk all night long, but it didn't help Canelo's chances.
Wow. I don't know if that's out there, but that's
Joe
news
Rogan
to
talked
me,
about
Ray.
it. So I mean, Joe Rogan did mention it a few hours ago, but
Got it.
I know, but it was something that did come to mind. And why do I say that? Because when I was in Japan prior to the Golovkin-Murata fight, it was something that I saw and I talked about with people that were in both camps, because the fact that now, since Golovkin won that fight, there was supposed to be a third fight with him and Canelo. So I even asked the Triple G people, I go, you guys have any reservations with the fact that Canelo's going vegan prior to this fight with Bivol? And they were like, it should be okay. He'll be good. I thought so too. But then after the fight was over, I'm like, man, I'm not saying I but just maybe I was onto something, or maybe, talking to the people that I have, that that's not necessarily the best move.
Wow, that's there's so much to say about that. I mean, I guess for starters, the vegan athletes I know of are generally more so marathon runner type. They go the distance. Canelo needed his power in that fight. I mean, obviously, it would have really helped to carry his power. I wonder if that played a major factor. Ray, has Canelo commented on this?
I have not seen anything, but again, Mike, I've been off of, we had Mother's Day yesterday. It's a Monday.
Yeah.
So,
I saw you hanging out with Mom. Good.
Yeah,
good.
I hung out with Mom. I saw Grandma and everything else. So I haven't been able to fully see and if he addressed that, but
Got it.
I don't think it helped him. And the thing is that, and this is in general, no matter what kind of athlete, when you drastically change your diet, unless it is for imminent health reasons, to where it's like, diabetes or whatever the case may be. But if it's working for you, why are you going to change it? Canelo was the baddest man on the planet, the number one pound for pound fighter. He's not that way anymore because he lost to Bivol. And Bivol is even saying, like, hey, if he wants to run it back, let's run it back. But why don't we run it back to 68? And let's go for all 4 of his belts. I mean, I love that mentality from Bivol. He's like, you know what? Hey, he came up to fight me here. Let me go ahead. I see that he's got 4 beautiful belts. They're all shiny toys there. Let me go down 7 pounds and I'll fight him at his weight. I mean, how crazy is that?
People talk about the size difference. Bivol said he fought at 183 on fight night. Probably the same weight as Canelo.
Yeah, maybe a few pounds. I think Canelo might have been a few pounds less than that, but I don't think I think the size made a difference because Bivol is just a big, strong kid and he is in his early 30s. But I just think that I don't think the weight made a difference. I just think the size and how strong and sturdy Bivol was. He wasn't going away, essentially, because even there was a point where Canelo invited him in, and Bivol,
when Canelo was on the ropes, it was the 5th round. Bivol had stunned him a little bit, threw some punches. Canelo tried to make some miss, but some went through, and Canelo waved him in. And what did Bivol do? He took the center of that ring.
Exactly. That, to me, was the turning point. It showed you that he was not going to be intimidated. On top of that, even Bivol said after the fight, he said, look, I understand the people and the fans and everything else. They can't get in the ring and fight for you. the same way that, and they were different stages of their careers, but I saw the same thing when your Dennis Ugas beat Manny Pacquiao, because it's different. You've been around big prize fights and that level. When you come into that arena, there is so much electricity and energy. And as a fighter, like as an announcer, it is to where you're at your best, but it is high level, high stakes. The adrenaline is flowing the most it ever will in your career. So there's a lot of anxiety with that. And certain guys wilt under the anxiety and the pressure. Floyd Mayweather always said there are levels to this game, and guys wilt under the pressure. Your Dennis Ugas did not against Manny Pacquiao. Bivol came out and he was, I looked and I really pay attention to eyes and body language. He was stoked, but he was like enjoying it. He was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Biggest crowd I fought in, this is cool. And then Canelo did his whole spectacular entrance, and Bivol was just kind of unfazed by it. And when the bell rang, it was like Bivol was having a glorified sparring session. He was in the zone.
Yeah,
that's what I was impressed by.
That's what he said afterwards, Ray, is that he felt in control of the boxing in that fight. All right, so just one more thing on the fight before we talk about what happens now. I've seen Canelo try to box with a little bit more, he's showing me a little bit of Floyd. He's using his shoulder a little more. He more movement, right? It seemed like the style in which Canelo fight him could be pretty majorly adjusted. I've seen Canelo, with better footwork. I've seen Canelo try to focus on slipping shots a little bit better rather than kind of just putting the earmuffs on, as Teddy Atlas calls it. What did you think about the strategic performance of Canelo?
I think there was no plan B. So when plan A doesn't work, you have to go to a plan B. You got to be able to have a plan C. That's what made Floyd Mayweather so great. And I'm not trying to compare the two, but in terms of pound for pound fighters in recent memory, Floyd was the guy. Canelo took that mantle when Floyd retired. So I like to compare because they were, Floyd beat him back, 9 years ago, but it was like the passing of the torch in many aspects. So I'm looking at it that way. Floyd had plan A, plan B, plan C, probably had plan D, plan E, plan F if you wanted to. Canelo had plan A, and when that wasn't working the first 3 or 4 rounds, my brother Miguel, who you work with, also an announcer for BBC and various entities, I looked at him at Joy District and I go, oh boy, Canelo's in trouble. He goes, oh yeah, yes he is. He didn't make any adjustments, and Canelo wasn't as aggressive in this fight as he has in previous fights. And why is that? I think the size, I think the style of Bivol, but I also think that Canelo couldn't kick it into that second and third gear and was a little bit apprehensive of letting it loose based on the limitations that he might have encountered. And a lot of times when it comes to fight night, training camp can be going great. And you're like, man, this guy's wiping out guys, blah, blah. But then something happens in a fight where either your legs are gone in the second half of the fight, something happens. And it is so indicative under the lights. That's why they always say under the lights in a big prize fight, that is the truth serum for prize fighters, because you cannot hide from your limitations and from flaws that you might have had. You can do that in the gym. You can do that in strength and conditioning. You could look like the super of super athletes. But under the lights, when you have a guy who's not going away, who is busy, who's got high ring intelligence, who's not going to be intimidated by you, who feels like this is his night of destiny, it's awfully hard to beat. When you look at Mayweather, when he fought Marcos Maidana the first fight, Floyd was not there all the way and was able to find a way to make an adjustment and get the victory over a guy who would have beaten every other welterweight in the world. Marcos Maidana would have been welterweight champion that night in May of 14 if he wasn't fighting anybody but Floyd Mayweather. There's several instances in boxing that would have occurred. And Canelo just couldn't beat Bivol. Could he have beaten mostly every other light heavyweight? I mean, I think he has a really good shot at it.
So let's stick with that comparison, Ray. Floyd has that razor close fight, right, where he's getting clubbed up a little bit, gets the rematch and dominates. Is it now time for Canelo to make those adjustments? And what would you anticipate in a rematch? Is the most likely scenario that he will do what Floyd did to Maidana, which is figure him out and win much more decisively in the second fight? Is that the most likely scenario, or did we really see a passing of the torch and a new star here in Dimitri?
I think we saw a new star in Bivol, but I'm going to be contrarian here. And I don't even know if this narrative is out there. I'm sure it is. But for me, I have seen in boxing where guys lose once. Like, let's say they have a big fight coming up where Canelo has the fight with Triple G coming up. Eric Morales lost to Zahir Rahim at Staples Center. And then Manny Pacquiao, I forgot who Manny Pacquiao fought. And Pacquiao, they were supposed to fight each other again. I forgot what fight it was, either the first time or second time. And they had a tune-up fight. It was a quote-unquote tune-up fight. And it's crazy to think that this was potentially a tune-up fight for Canelo to get ready for Golovkin. Again, showing the brilliance and the greatness of Canelo Alvarez. 2 losses does not diminish his greatness. Morales lost to Zahir Rahim. Had a boxing lesson put on him by Rahim. Pacquiao wins. They decided to do Pacquiao Morales, and the fight was fun and it was just still box office draw. Zab Judah lost to Carlos Baldemir back in January, I forgot when, of 04-05, would then go on still to fight Floyd Mayweather, and that was a fun pay-per-view fight, and although it was chaos with Yoel Judah getting in the ring and that whole craziness, Roger Mayweather, they were able to settle them down. Floyd got the win over Zab Judah. I don't want to see an immediate rematch between Canelo and Bivol. What I want to see Canelo Triple G number 3, because I think from a box office standpoint, it still has that gravitas behind it. And I think that for Canelo, fighting a guy, let's say they fight at 68, I think he should go back to 68 for this fight and fight Golovkin. I think it'll get the juices going for Canelo because there's genuine disdain and bad blood between the two. Yeah. There was no bad blood between him and Bivol. They were sportsmen. And I like them both. I like both aspects of boxing. People say, oh, well, we need to see more controversy in boxing. We like when guys don't like each other. Sometimes, though, it could get a little too personal. I'm not necessarily a fan of that. Sometimes they could be too nice to each other. I'm okay with that, too. But people don't like that. With this, Canelo's coming off of the loss to Bivol. I don't want to see them run it back. I want to see Canelo fight a guy that upsets him, that borderline pisses him off, that wants him to come out and be this ferocious, maniacal, diabolical, hard hitter, this savage that I know Canelo can be because I've been fortunate enough, knock on wood, my man, to watch him in sparring, and he's a vicious sparring partner, believe that. So I want to see, and I saw Golovkin against Murata, and the first 4 rounds were competitive. And then, man, when I was listening to Golovkin hit Murata and the shots that Murata was able to absorb, it sounded like a baseball bat hitting a pumpkin. That's how vicious it was. So I want to see Triple G Canelo number 3 in September, have Bivol as the co-main event, and then let's run it back in May of next year.
I love that. Ray, can you call up everybody you need to call up? Let's make that go down. That is phenomenal. And look, I'm sure you're a Canelo fan and whatnot, but let's be honest. They're 1-1. Canelo lost that first fight with Triple G. True or false?
I mean, it was close. I can't say. Look. It was close.
It was close.
And the reason why I say is because there are a couple of what I say is there are a couple toss-up rounds.
Totally understood. I'll just say that from my perspective, it looked like Canelo lost that first one. The judges scored it a draw, and then of course Canelo comes back, looks phenomenal in the second Triple G fight. I would love to see that matchup, Ray. Now we've got some fun fights we're talking about. That would make a phenomenal year. Let's make that route happen instead, because let's be honest, the instant rematch is kind of worn out in boxing. We constantly see the instant rematch. Here we go with Anthony Joshua and Usyk. I was kind of satisfied, but we're going to run it back again. It's kind of an Achilles heel of boxing almost. Always the contractual obligation to do the rematch.
The A-side fighter, man, you know what I mean? Canelo has that rematch clause, and he might have enough pride, or he might have so much pride that he might say, I got to run it back. I got to show this and that. That's fine. And you know what? You're the best. You were the best pound for pound fighter in the world. You deserve every opportunity to run that back. But selfishly, you know, I want to see Canelo and Triple G, because with the bad blood, the turmoil, the fact that I think with the loss that Canelo had, I think that fight makes it that much more interesting.
Yes.
Because people unfairly were writing off Triple G even before this Canelo Bivol fight, which I don't know why. The fact that Triple G is 40 years of age and is the unified middleweight champion of the world, went to Japan and beat their Olympic gold medalist champion who fought the fight of his life. Murata fought the fight of his life. This guy gave everything and was like a samurai warrior in there, man. He was that focused and that determined. I'm like, oh boy, we might see one of the biggest moments, if not the biggest moment in Japanese boxing history here, if Murata is able to pull off the upset. Then Triple G did Triple G things from the 5th round on. But I think that this fight with Canelo and Triple G, I don't think it lost juice. I think it gained juice. I think it gained electricity. And when you put it together and you break it down in terms of the way that we have on your show, I think people are going to be like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of meat on the bone here. And I'm not a vegan like how Canelo is. I am a carnivore through and through. There is a lot of meat on the bone in this fight, my man.
Canelo was eating horse meat in Mexico or whatever, right? We don't have to get into that. But, you know, I thought Canelo loves the meat. All right. So Canelo Triple G I like, but hey, there's somebody else calling him out. You know, Canelo's got to prove that he can beat bigger guys. Canelo Alvarez versus Jake Paul. Ray Flores, are you not in? Do you not want to see that fight?
Listen, Jake is, when you talk about the most polarizing guy in the heavyweight division, the most polarizing guy in combat sports, the number one pound for pound polarizing guy in both is that of Jake Paul. This guy's a marketing genius. What he does is just, he knows how to, like, he's the ultimate troll. Like, he's the ultimate troll, but he backs it up. And people are like, oh, well, you know, who's he beating? This and that. Well, look, I know he beat Ben Askren and he bounced Ben Askren's head off, you know, the canvas like a basketball, which I called. That was vicious. Then he goes out and, you know, beats Woodley the first fight, but then he destroys Woodley. Look, everyone that's been put in front of him, he has been able to beat, and he has won. So he's a proven winner. So let's see who he fights next. Do I want to see him fight a boxer at some point, like soon? Yeah, but I'll tell you, I know his trainer, BJ Flores, no relation to me whatsoever, so I don't want people to think that I'm, you know, oh, he's got his friend or his cousin's related to, you know, Jake Paul's trainer, BJ Flores. We're not related at all. But I know the guys that he spars with. Andrew Tabiti sparred with him. People have told me Jake goes in there and he works and he takes this seriously. And he is very much a student of the game. He has the whole show behind him and, you know, the theatrics and the antics and calling out this person, that person. Jake is a smart guy, but also let's go back to MMA world. I mean, I'm near and dear to my heart with Big Ten wrestling. These guys came from Ohio and were wrestlers. They were standout wrestlers in high school. So these aren't just a bunch of punk kids, as people want to say, off the street, social media stuff, do a couple of fart jokes or whatever that they do on their social media pages and throw, you know, water balloons at Dylan Dennis and are now fighting and prize fighters. They're actually really solid athletes. And we're seeing that with, you know, Logan Paul in the WWE and having fought Floyd Mayweather to a decision in, you know, boxing last year at June in Miami. So they're actually really, I think they're underrated athletes.
Sure, and they've gotten just ungodly amounts of hate, you know, but like John Jones said, it's like, you know, the arguments have a conclusion when you get to that fight, when you step into that squared circle or when you step into that cage, you know, whatever the argument was, you get it solved. And every time Jake Paul has come out on top. Good for him. You know, one quick comment there on Jake is the fact that, you know, they've been trying to make this fight with Tyson Fury's brother. Why is his name escaping me? Tommy Fury.
Yeah.
And I saw Tommy Fury's last fight, Ray.
Yeah.
I think Jake might beat him.
Yeah, I
I
think you're right. I really do. If that fight were to happen, I absolutely pick Jake to beat Tommy Fury. And it's one
I
of
didn't
those.
think that last year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. There was a video out there because Tyson is such a, he loves the limelight and he's so good with mental warfare. There was a video out there, I'm sure you saw it, where Tyson Fury is like, hey, it was like the first day of training camp, right? If you remember. And Tyson's like, hey, this first day of training camp for Team Fury. Tommy, are you ready? He's like, we're going to beat that Dussa Jake Paul. This is Tyson saying this. And he goes, Tommy, are you ready? And Tommy looks and he has like his eyes real big. He goes, and he's eating like a steak or something. He goes, yeah, I'm ready. Right away, I'm like, he ain't ready.
Oh
He's not.
no.
He's not ready for this kind of media attention and the blitz and the mental warfare that Jake Paul is going to instill upon him. That his brother Tyson Fury's been so good dishing out to heavyweights over the past several years. I didn't think he was ready.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw this clip, but I believe it was before this past Tommy Fury fight. Tommy Fury's like trying to get in the car with Tyson, and Tyson's like, "Why were you at the club? Like, what were you doing partying? And didn't want him to get in the car. So something's going on with Tommy Fury, man. Something's not right there. And looking at his fights, he kind of looks open for the overhand right to me, and we all found out, and certainly Tyron Woodley found out, Jake Paul's kind of got a decent overhand right. That might be a problem for a lot of these guys. Ray, though, there's a big difference between him fighting Tommy Fury and him going up and challenging Canelo and doing all these things he's talking about. I mean, wouldn't you, being a guy who's been around this sport for a long time, tell him, hey, man, pump the brakes, get the Tommy Fury fight, work your way up the right way? Because it seems like what he's going to try to do is book the biggest fight he can as soon as he can. That's not historically how you bring a fighter up.
No.
Maybe if you have a tiny little window, if he only wants to fight for the next 2 years and make as much money as possible, then yes, get Canelo in the ring. It wouldn't seem like the smartest thing to do. It seems like Jake Paul can get better and he needs to slowly step up this ladder. Tommy Fury's the right fight.
What you talk about, Mike, makes all the logical sense in the world. And I think that Jake, in his heart of hearts, and I'm not even putting words in his mouth, but I think he knows, listen, you need to really pay attention to the levels in which you fight, because there have to be calculated moves. And everything that Jake has done, credit to him for becoming a multi-gazillionaire, not millionaire, gazillionaire. They've all been calculated strategic moves.
Yes.
Here's how all of this goes backwards and blows up in their face. If they take too big of a risk and then he gets obliterated, because that could happen if you fight a guy that is way too seasoned and has been in there against the who's who. And yeah, you're going to get a big payday, but if you're going to get physically dominated and really have all your flaws exposed, that's not good for business either, my friend. So I think that, who is it that is his CEO? He came from the UFC. I forgot who his CEO is, but he's always around him. He's a bald guy. They're smart guys over there. So they are not like, look what he did with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor being a part of the biggest women's fight in boxing history. Awesome. It's like Nikita Bazarian, I think is his name, if I'm correct. That is like his CEO of, I think it's
the Warlock. Is that who we're talking about?
No. It's like
Dana White called him the Warlock. We're missing each other.
Yeah. Like Nikita Bazarian or whatever is, I think, his name. But they're smart guys over there with Most Valuable Promotions. They're not. I mean, all this stuff is fodder, but in the ring, under the lights, if you fight somebody like a Canelo Alvarez that can decapitate you because you're not a seasoned fighter, like a Dimitri Bivol, it'll go south on you. Yeah. And then, as we all know, especially in boxing, one loss, especially if you lose in a bad way and it's not competitive and you get physically dominated, the public will turn against you like that. So more than any other sport, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, and we're trying to change that narrative as we talked about, but I think Jake makes smart moves. So I think Tommy Fury might be an opponent. I think that he's going to come out with an opponent that we're not going to expect. I have a feeling, because he's talking about coming back in August. It's going to shock us. And I mean, it sounds crazy, but him and Conor McGregor
Oh no.
maybe at like 75, 80. I mean, I don't know if Dana would even allow it. I don't know if it's even possible, but the one thing I know being around the Mayweather-McGregor tour is that, and that fight, I was around that entire fight. The fact of that, if there is enough money behind it, the UFC may
Dollars
not
make
sign off
sense.
on it, but they're going to listen. Because if Conor McGregor comes back right now, you mean to tell me that a fight, and I'm just talking business sense. I'm taking off my journalistic MMA boxing hat and talking business. You mean to tell me Conor McGregor against Oliveira, Conor McGregor against Poirier again, Conor McGregor against Masvidal, all those are big box office fights. However, Conor McGregor against Jake Paul, I think blows all those 3 fights out of the water. The world will be talking about that fight. It would be a spectacle, is what I would say. Is it the best for both sports? No, but I think there's room for everything. I have no problem with the YouTubers fighting. I have no problem with the old guys coming back, Mike Tyson and, fighting Roy Jones Jr., as long as they're cleared by the commission. But the commission and the doctors have to sign off on them. If the doctors and the commissions and the state governments, people are like, oh, how can boxing allow this? Well, let me tell you something, how boxing can allow this, how combat sports can allow it. The people that you elect in political office assign the athletic commissions. These are state-appointed government regulators that answer to the governor of the state.
Say it loud, Ray.
You know what I mean? They're coming out and they're saying, hey, California State Athletic Commission, the Governor Newsom says, here's my panel that's going to regulate combat sports in my state. So it's not big bad Bob Arum or big bad PBC or Eddie Hearn. Oh my God, look what they're doing, sacrificing these guys. The state athletic commissions sign off on them because they put them through battery of tests. And if a state athletic commission is going to sign off on it, then guess what? If you got a problem with it, talk to your governor, because your governor, they're like, wait a minute, the governor? I'm like, yeah, the governor, the guy that you elected that's running your state is the one who put these people in positions to determine whether or not Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson is going to fight tonight or not. It has nothing to do with the boxing promoters. We can only come up with the deals.
Hey, I got another response to that person who's upset. How about a little bit of freedom? If you don't want to get in the ring and box, don't. If that guy over there wants to get in the ring and box, who are you to tell him he can't? Isn't that like the idea of being an American, right? Like pursuing your own dream, pursuing your own happiness. If Mike Tyson wants to fight somebody, let him fight. Get the fuck out of his way.
Exactly.
I just feel like people get silly with that stuff. Now, with that being said,
yes,
it was hard to see Evander Holyfield and Vitor Belfort because Evander wasn't close to a fighting prime. And, it was tough for me to watch that KO, Ray. You're obviously really close to it. You've seen Evander Holyfield be the best fighter in the world at one point.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily love seeing Evander in there with a power puncher like Vitor. Those specific scenarios there, maybe there could be better matchmaking. Maybe there could be better decisions made. But as far as like Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., dude, I loved it. People are like, oh, he didn't knock him out. He didn't go for it. Man, that was a fun sparring session then. I had a great time watching that. I think that there are some fun fights to still be made there, and there will be a lot of disagreement on this end. But Ray, I think one thing's very clear. Let the fighters, let the coaches, let the, as you said, athletic commissions. This is their decision. This is their wheelhouse. For people to tell people who should fight and who shouldn't. It's not your decision at home.
And also, Evander Holyfield had John David Jackson in his corner, one of the most respected trainers in boxing. Sure. So I'm like, if John David Jackson is signing off on him and Evander, I talked with Evander, and Evander was like, yeah, I want this fight, this and that. It didn't go his way. Hey, look, at least he came out okay. Everything was fine. But man, I got to tell you still, Mike, Vitor Belfort
is the man.
Dude, that I don't know how that guy, whatever water he's drinking, like, I'm serious. Like his workouts, like he's a really nice guy to me. But bro, I shake his hand and he has muscles on his hand. Like it's like, oh my gosh. Like I took a photo with him and I was like, I felt like I was climbing up a rock. I think you're really adventurous. You and your lovely wife are very adventurous, and you guys go rock climbing and stuff. I felt like I was rock climbing on Vitor Belfort, bro. And I'm like, holy cow, this guy's got boulders for shoulders.
And Vitor's fast. I mean, he's still got his speed, Ray.
I know, man. I mean, just watching him compete, I'm like, oh boy, like you could not pay me enough money to be in the ring for even 10 seconds against Vitor Belfort.
Ray, Vitor Belfort versus Jake Paul. Sign me up.
Okay, that's a fight. Heck yes. Let's go. Let's go,
Where's
bro.
the line?
Can you imagine even
take my money?
Paul, Anderson Silva?
Oh, great. Anderson's defense, his ability, even in his 40s now, his ability to box, it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful. I mean, you saw a real skill difference there between him and Tito Ortiz. My own Huntington Beach guy, Tito Ortiz, our former mayor. I'm not talking shit, but Anderson Silva is a much better boxer. Anderson Silva or Vitor Belfort are better fights for Jake Paul, not because of the age. I understand there's a knock on Jake. He keeps fighting people who are past their prime, who have big names. That's part of it. But you brought up Conor McGregor and Jake. I think the bigger tragedy is the size difference here, man.
Yeah,
Jake is you could put Jake. Did you see Jake Paul and Daniel Cormier standing face to face?
Yeah.
Jake's bigger. Jake's bigger than Daniel Cormier, the UFC heavyweight champion. It's like Jake should not be fighting the former featherweight champion of the UFC. It just doesn't make sense to me. It does make sense. Vitor Belfort, Jake Paul. I like that shit.
I like that a lot, man. I mean, either middleweight. I mean, it's unbelievable because I would be such a fan of both. And again, we go back to state athletic commissions. Anderson Silva has had a renaissance in boxing, went to Mexico and was victorious over Chavez Jr.
Incredible.
And then comes back and wipes out Tito Ortiz. I mean, come on. Like Dana White was even saying, Anderson's done in MMA, this and that. Well, what if everyone in combat sports said, okay, Anderson's done. Let's not license him anymore. Well, he goes to Mexico, beats Chavez Jr. in his own sport, comes back, beats out Tito Ortiz, and now is having this renaissance and probably making still significant more money than he was in most of his days as UFC middleweight champion of the world. So
incredible. And Anderson Silva's one of one. Anderson Silva deserves tons of respect, and I think he mostly gets it, but there are some people there who don't include him in that greatest of all time talk. When people cover greatest of all time, it seems to be like Khabib, John Jones, George St. Pierre. I don't know why Anderson Silva left the conversation. Yes, he accumulated some losses at the end of his career there, but it comes back to that Floyd versus Canelo style thing. It's like Canelo fights anybody. I respect that. I respect that Anderson will sign on for whatever the fight is. He fought the young kids. He went in there and fought Israel Adesanya, Ray. You don't see Floyd getting in there past his prime with the young kids. He called it at the right time. So it's like, you just have to respect that Anderson goes in there and puts it on the line. I have a ton of respect for him, and I'm sure you gained newfound respect when you saw that performance in Mexico, Ray. I mean, Anderson Silva is one of the best in the world in his 40s.
See, to me, Anderson Silva, I mean, this sounds, I know I'm wrong on this, but I don't really care about this wrong narrative because to me, Anderson Silva is, when his era of dominance, what he did going from 85 to 205, that head kick of Vitor Belfort, I was in Las Vegas. Miguel Torres fought Demetrius Johnson, or no, he didn't fight Demetrius Johnson. He fought Antonio Banuelos that card, and I was covering that event, and I watched it. It was unbelievable. Watching Anderson do what he did was the most impressive thing I've ever seen in UFC history, aside from Khabib Nurmagomedov going undefeated. So those are, when he was middleweight champion and then going up to 205 and he embarrassed Forrest Griffin, embarrassed him, went up and fought James Irvin, and Irvin was a tough and durable dude and just blasted him out, going from 85 to 205, back and forth, this and that. And listen, even to this day, he would have beaten Chris Weidman the first fight if he wouldn't have not put his hands down because he was wiping the floor with Chris Weidman. And those are one of those things that I know it's controversial, but he would have beaten Weidman if he wouldn't have been so ridiculously careless. And then he wouldn't have subsequently gone on to break his leg because Weidman would have been dispatched of, and he would have never had that happen to him. But hindsight's 2020, and that's my Anderson Silva narrative. I thought during his run of terror in the UFC middleweight division, probably aside from Khabib, the most dominant we've ever seen.
Absolutely. And you know, Anderson decided to take risks in his career by putting his hands down. I mean, you recall the Stephan Bonner fight where Stephan Bonner misses a kick, Anderson like puts himself back on the fence, like try it again. You know, that's always been Anderson too. So part of the success is also that flair of unpredictability and you know, he offers his vulnerabilities on purpose, you know. So there's a little bit of that mixed into the greatness, right? That's part of what makes him Anderson Silva, right?
So true, man. I mean, but it was so much fun to watch him, and I look forward to seeing what's next for him.
Absolutely, me too. Ray, you know, I want to talk about you a little bit more, man. You are working for Eagle FC. With the great Khabib Nurmagomedov. I'll start there because, Ray, I saw Eagle FC put out that first promo, that first one that looked, I thought it was a movie. I'm like, is there a movie coming? I had no idea.
Oh, I love it.
The cars are driving to the cage and all this stuff. It was so cool, man. I thought, damn, Khabib and the team are really doing something different here with Eagle FC. What have you seen on the inside being at Eagle FC? And just give me your thoughts overall, because I know they're going to have you working pretty soon here.
Yeah, May 20th, we have Junior Dos Santos, Jorgen De Castro. You know, we also have Hector Lombard and Thiago Silva matching up. Man, I'm pumped for this card. You know what? Eagle FC continues to get better. And being with them since, you know, I started working with them in December, and they have the fights at the FlexCast Arena down in Miami. It's a VIP only crowd, about 300 to 500 people. It's so great for the sport because this first year of Eagle FC is all for free on the FlexCast app. So anywhere in the world, you can watch Eagle FC events. And they're signing guys. I mean, look at the resurgence of Ray Borg over the past two fights when people thought Borg was done and, oh, well, maybe he was a flash in the pan and this and that. No, Ray Borg is back, my friends. And the fact of going ahead and Rashad Evans, after the run that Rashad had, losing forward rope, coming back and beating Gabriel Checo.
He looked good.
The fact that Dos Santos is back fighting Jorgen De Castro. De Castro looked amazing in his recent fight. Look, there is such a brilliant brain trust there, Mike. I learned so much from everybody in that building when it comes to Khabib, when it comes to Ali Abdelaziz. That guy, Ali, knows talent like you wouldn't believe. Just even talking with him for 30 seconds and just being a fly on the wall to observe and hear how he breaks down fighters or a specific fight or why or how, whatever. He has so many champions in every major organization around the world. It is mind-blowing. And then ridiculous. Another guy, what's up?
It's a little ridiculous, man. He's got so many people on his roster. I'm like, is he just like pawning off the responsibilities to other people? How many people are signed by Ali Abdelaziz?
I'll tell you this. It's funny because when you talk to Ali and we get like, you know, he kind of gives, you know, his idea of what we're thinking about for what we're talking about for that specific day, because, you know, we do a press conference on a Wednesday. We do the weigh-ins on a Thursday. We do the fight on a Friday. So I'm around him over the course of the week, but he'll come in and we'll talk a little bit. And then as he's getting ready to finish his point, or even before that, his phone's either blowing up or he's being pulled in like a million different directions. It's unbelievable. And he has time for every single person. Like Cejudo will come up to him, or who is it? Kayla Harrison will come up to him and he'll be like, oh yeah, like he knows every detail. Like, I don't know how this guy puts all this stuff in his brain. But then you have a guy also, Rizvan Magomedov, who I remember from being here in Chicago way back in the day. And that guy is somebody who is so smart. He was a manager in MMA and now one of the heads of Eagle FC. Brilliant guy and so underrated for what he's done in the business. You got producer like Rick Sierra's been around for a long time. Another guy that handles the production, Smokey's amazing. We have so many quality people. You got Chael Sonnen on the broadcast. You got Henry Cejudo. You got Cyrus Fees. Myself a part of it. I mean, you have a lot of just smart people that are all coming together. And I learned so much from every single person that I deal with down there, because we're all building something that we feel is special, because it's just an alternative to the UFC. It's not, I mean, look, I don't like the word competition. I like alternative, because here's the bottom line. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. It's the most one-sided relationship of my life. But the Bears are in the NFC.
Me too.
I like watching AFC football. I like watching, the San Diego Chargers. I like watching, the Denver Broncos. I'm going to be watching the Broncos this year a lot with Russell Wilson. But the reason why I say that, I don't say I'm just watching NFC football, the Chicago Bears. I'm not going to watch the AFC. When you're a combat sports fan and you're saying, hey, I'm going to watch the UFC, that's cool. But then when you're watching Bellator, people are like, how can you watch Bellator? Because it's whatever the UFC or, Eagle FC comes in. Oh, well, they compare to the UFC? No, they're fights. It's MMA.
Right.
I can watch everything and support everything because I'm a fight fan. Why do I have to pick sides? I watch college football whenever I can. It doesn't happen often, but after I get done with an event on Saturday night, I'm having dinner at a restaurant, going to a bar to have a beverage, and guess what's on? Pac-12 football. So I'm watching like USC and play whoever. I like watching Pac-12 after dark. That's college football, but I'm a Big Ten guy. I work for the Big Ten Network. I'm not saying I'm not watching Pac-12 football. Are you crazy? I'm a football fan. I want to absorb and digest all of it.
100%, Ray. I work for Bellator, and I'm just in awe at the level of some of these fighters. Rafael Stotts just won the title, against Juan Archuleta. Like, looking at when I see two phenomenal world-class talents stepping in there, even if it's not in the UFC, it's just incredible how high the level of athletics can get. And, people maybe don't understand that, Ray. Like, I run into a lot of people who only really want to, give somebody credit, give the fighters credit as being world-class if they fight for, that top promotion. And it's bizarre to me. I'm always looking at the skill sets, and some of the skill sets, are just unbelievable for boxers outside of, the WBC and the, and of course, same thing with the UFC. It's like, in Bellator, we've got some incredible talents. You don't have to look further than AJ McKee and Pitbull, who just put on an awesome rematch, or, the list goes on, man. We got a lot of, you were mentioning Kayla Harrison. Cyborg Kayla Harrison would be bananas.
Come on. I mean, are you kidding me? There's so much talent in the world.
Yes.
It's not just with the UFC. And I'm not trying to say there's anything wrong with the UFC, but there is other avenues to be able to get your combat sports. And it's funny when people go into the UFC and they've been around for a while. Michael Chandler comes to mind most recently, and he came from Bellator, and people are like, man, who's this Michael Chandler guy? I'm like,
knocks out Hooker.
What are you talking about? Right. Like, what? Like, this is a badass dude, former world champion, and now he's in the UFC ranks. Yeah. I think you gain more when you become a top guy with another organization. And then if you decide to make that move, you can. But AJ McKee's proving it. You can make a Bellator, an Eagle FC, your home, be widely successful, and make life-changing money and still be okay. You don't have to necessarily go to the UFC. If you want to, God bless you, like, all the best to you. But you don't have to just go there to, the same way independent pro wrestling is going with AEW, how guys, when it was like the WWE and that was it. Well, now there's an alternative in AEW wrestling. You can go there, become a major worldwide star, make a ton of money, and you have options. I love having options in combat sports.
Well, yeah, that's what that's what it's all about in boxing, specifically the Ali Act, and just the overall way the sport is set up is having competitive organizations. I'll stick with that UFC example. You brought up Michael Chandler going into the UFC. People should understand that Michael Chandler success you've seen in the UFC, Pitbull does the same shit. AJ McKee goes over there and does the same shit. It's not just Michael Chandler. You know, there's a lot of talent that would be extremely successful. So, branching outside of the UFC, you're going to hear Ray Flores' wonderful voice too. So you got to make sure you guys do that. Ray, before this Eagle FC event, I think you got Triller.
Yeah, I got Triller on Saturday, man. I'm excited. We got Sergey Kovalev, and, we have a big night of boxing. We have, the Vargas brothers, who are, they call it, it's a card of dynasty, because, you have Sergey Kovalev, you got the Pulev brothers, Kubrat and Terrell Pulev. You also have the Vargas sons, the Vargas brothers, that are the sons of Fernando Vargas, El Feroz, the former super welterweight champion of the world. You also have the son. We mentioned Evander Holyfield. Evan Holyfield to be on the card as well. I'm excited. We got Cypress Hill performing. I think it's going to be a crazy night of fights and music and entertainment, bro. So you do not want to miss it. And I'm excited to get to LA. It's going to be at the Forum, the legendary Forum in Inglewood, California, right there. And as Stone Cold Steve Austin likes to say, in Los Angeles, my man. So LA, get ready to rock and roll, because Triller Fight Club is back. It's our first event of the year. I cannot wait. Looking forward to working with the likes of Showtime Sean Porter, Sean Wheelock, who you hear on Bare Knuckle FC, and that entire crew. And, fortunate to be able to be reunited with amazing producer Dave Harmon, Nigel Lithgow from American Idol, and So You Think You Can Dance, his brilliance behind it. So I think it is going to be a fantastic night of boxing, along with music with Cypress Hill, and away we go, my man. So it's going to be a lot of fun. LA this week, and then Miami next week for Eagle FC, and away we go. And then I got PBC the following night with David Benavidez and David Lemieux in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, shit. There you go. You stay busy, Ray. You're a gangster. Right. And you know what? When Ray says it's going to be fun, he really means it. Ray, you love this shit, bro. And that's one of the things I like to see when I hear you on the microphone commentating, when I see you in the ring. I know you love what you do, and it is infectious, man. That makes you great at what you do, and we definitely appreciate how much, how invested you are, both in the sport of boxing and the sport of mixed martial arts. You are a true combat sports, first off, historian, but truly a fan, man. You love this shit, and we feel that when you work.
Well, honestly, Mike, that's the greatest compliment anybody can give me, because bottom line is this. I love the fucking fights. They get me excited. I mean, I remember watching HBO Boxing After Dark back, whenever there was a fight, when I was in, I wasn't one of those kids. I wasn't a nerd, but I wasn't like someone that was out at parties all the time. My thing is on Saturday nights to get together with my dad. I mean, my dad's a big fight fan. Get together with my dad and some buddies and either watch HBO Boxing or a UFC card. And this is back in you're looking at 2002, 2003, 2004. They were maybe 6 to 8 UFC events a year. And then you would have HBO Boxing, Showtime Boxing. So my Saturday nights would be around fighting. So I would watch great fights. And my whole weekend was building up to that big fight, whatever it may be. Like watching, Oscar De La Hoya against Felix Tito Trinidad, watching Oscar De La Hoya against the likes of Ike Bazooka Corte, watching Jose Luis Castillo, Diego Chico Corrales, watching Ricky Hatton fight, watching the UFC cards of the BJ Penns of the world, the Matt Hugheses of the world, the Chuck Liddells, the rivalries, watching Randy Couture did what he did, Captain America himself. I love this stuff. And when I'm around these guys and I watch fighters, and I respect all of them, whether they're debuters or whether they are top world-class contenders or world champions. I remember watching Caleb Plant in June of 2016 when he fought a Colombian power puncher on Spike TV. I was calling the fight for the International, and he had a vicious body shot knockout. And I remember seeing him, and after the fight, I'm like, dude, that was one of the sickest knockouts in boxing I've ever seen. It was an uppercut to the body, pierced him. It was ridiculous. And I still tell him to this day, he's a former world champion, fought Canelo Alvarez, made buku money, getting ready to expect a second child with his lovely wife, Jordan Plant, who I worked with many times over again. And I still tell him about that story. But I love this stuff. I love watching guys grow and evolve and develop and become world champions. And when guys stumble, it's okay, because they're going to come back. I love everything about it. Anything with fighting involved, I'm all about. Even now, being around Big Ten wrestling for the past 2 years with the Big Ten Network, watching the likes of a Gable Steveson, who I was fortunate to watch
what a
for
freak.
2 years, man. I watched this guy for 2 years in college, the Olympic gold medalist, and now he's a WWE superstar. Watching Roman Bravo Young, RBY, who works with Dominic Cruz, and he's coming back for another year next year. I'm like, I get to watch RBY for 3 more years at Penn State, being around the Brands brothers, Kale Sanderson, all these amazingly talented guys. I mean, I was literally watching the Big Ten championships with Jordan Burroughs for 2 days straight.
No
like,
way.
At the end of the day, I'm a freaking fight fan, and I love this shit. So I'm literally absorbing all this knowledge. Like, I watched Mayweather McGregor, and I sat next to Sugar Ray Leonard because Sugar Ray Leonard was on the international call with Brian Kenny, and I was the translator for the Fox fight, and Sugar Ray Leonard and I started talking, and he wanted me to be there to help him with research. So I was there watching Mayweather McGregor as Sugar Ray Leonard was sitting ringside, literally to my left. Like, how ridiculous is that?
Like, you're living the dream, Ray.
Like, what? Like, London, next to me, like, you have Mayweather McGregor. I'm in the middle of them. The first time they've been in a boxing room together, and Dana White's there, and Leonard Ellerbe and Stephen Espinosa's there. I'm like, this is amazing, but it really makes you elevate your game. So I've been really blessed, man, and hopefully we continue this and keep on moving. But we all started off in the Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area with, I got to send a shout out to Dan Lardy, Joe Goitia, Mike Davis, all those guys. They helped us out so much, and I'm forever grateful to them. And Miguel Torres. Without those guys, Jeff Curran, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Absolutely, man. We got our grassroots start from the Chicagoland MMA scene. And for those of you guys who don't know, that's how I know Ray. We both worked for the XFO and other organizations in Chicago. So yeah, shout out to Dan Lardy. Shout out to all the promoters. Hope they're doing well. And I would be remiss if I let you go without giving a shout out to your brother. Ray Flores has a brother, Miguel Flores, who does just as well as Ray does inside the ring. How's Miguel doing? I saw he's selling houses out here.
Yeah,
we got the real estate agent. Plus, he's in the ring. He's living the dream as well, man. I haven't seen Miguel in a minute. How is he?
He's great. It's funny because he's going to be in LA this week too. Because
I gotta come see you guys. This sounds like a dinner that might need to happen.
I mean, bro, like, he's going to be in LA this week. I think Wednesday, Thursday, because he'll be. So I'm going to be doing Triller at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles. He'll be calling Charlo Castaño, the Super Welterweight Championship fight for the international audience for PBC and TGB Promotions, doing post-fight press conference stuff there. So what's great is that as I've been able to get busier and everything else, and he's transitioned into working with these different promotions and creating his own niche. So people know that, look, if you call us up, I mean, you're going to get one of us, and away we go. And Miguel's hungry and determined. He grew up with you in the business. I mean, he was 18, 19 years old coming around, and you guys grew up together. We all grew up together. I mean, Matt LaCassia was there as well and, doing his thing. And I mean, we all kind of evolved and sort of learned our craft, all together under one roof.
Yeah, it's awesome to know where you guys came from, and I know what good people you guys are. So seeing all the success is just phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot take his whole day, but we got to sit down with Ray Flores for over an hour. You can catch him at Eagle FC, Triller, PBC, TGB Promotions. Am I missing any, Ray? Ray's all over the damn place.
I mean, I also do a weekly gambling show now where we talk about wagers in boxing MMA on Bet Rivers. So do that as well. So,
I got an MMA betting show, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, hey, we could go back and forth, man. I love it. Look, I always like to I watch everything, literally and figuratively watch everything because I'm in airports a lot. So I watch everything. I watch your show and I want to see, like, where's Mike? Like, I'm leaning this way. Where's Mike leaning towards? Because our perspectives are totally different, and that's what I love about, it's like watching a fighter. When I watch a fighter, I can watch another fighter and appreciate them just as much. So when there's various MMA shows out there and everything else, watch them all. Because if you're a junkie, back in the day, even 10 years ago, there weren't these many quality programs out there. And now there is. And we're so fortunate to do it. Mike, how many times would you and I be like, man, I can't wait for the UFC content show on Spike TV. It's going to be 30 minutes once a week. That's all we got, bro. All we got. We were barely lucky to have MMA Weekly, Sure Dog, and the UG. I'd be on the UG forum, chatting, trolling people and stuff like that. We have so much more now, bro. It's great. You can watch hours upon hours. So I can watch your show. Then you can watch my show. Then you can watch the UFC show. Then you can watch Bellator. And you still only, giving up 2 hours of your night to the fight night. You can still watch The Real Housewives or whatever with your girlfriend on Bravo if you want and still be good at 9 o'clock. So I'm just saying, bro.
It's so much, that MMA fans and combat sports fans in general can enjoy now, and that's partially because you're bringing it to them, Ray. We always appreciate hearing. Anytime I hear Ray on the TV, I just distinctly know your voice. So anytime, that's my guy right there. And listening to like a Tyson Fury fight when you're on it. Bro, it's incredible. It's incredible to see where you've come from and where the sport has gone to. As you just mentioned, the fans are spoiled and they don't even know it. They don't even know they're spoiled.
Bro, I want to commend you for your success as well with the Mike Fitch show. Moving out to, look, I moved out to LA for a couple of years, came back home to Chicago, but you're out there. You are doing the thing. Like, you are really doing the thing, you and your lovely wife. I love your gambling show. I think you're killing it in that regard. And again, there are things that a great fighter can watch other great fighters and pick little things that they like from them. And I think that's how I look at it, because I take a little bit of Jim Lampley, I take a little bit of Michael Buffer, I take a little bit from people that I respect and that I admire and I like watching. And you're somebody who I've always told you are the future of this business, and the future is now for you. And there's a reason why you're with Bellator. There's a reason why you're out in Hollywood doing your thing, walking the red carpets, all over these amazing gyms, hanging out with like 17th degree black belt jiu-jitsu practitioners, even though 17th degree black belts don't exist. But that's what I'm saying, bro. You're doing the thing.
I got a mythological person almost that does exist. You ready for this? I saw Henry Cejudo at UFC Gym Huntington Beach. What's up, Henry? What are you doing in Huntington Beach? He's like, oh, I'm gonna go film a video with Mike Tyson later. I'm like, Henry, can I come by? Can I meet Mike Tyson? Ray, I smoked a joint with Mike Tyson. Ray, I'm living the dream out here, man. I cannot.
Wow, that's amazing, bro. You smoked a joint with Mike Tyson.
Yes.
That is awesome, bro.
Yes.
I love that.
Iron Mike was just the kindest person. But Iron Mike's the man. I'm sure you see him around the shows, but for me, it was my first time seeing Iron Mike. What like a again, like mythological. It's almost like you're not sure this person is actually a human. Mike is the nicest guy, man. What a cool moment in my life. And I, like you were just saying, you're grateful. I am extremely grateful for the opportunities I've been able to get, and it's because of being around great people like you, Ray. Ray, I'm cutting it here. Yep. Thank you so much for coming on. Stick with my man Ray Flores. And Ray, if you're doing boxing picks, we're doing MMA picks. I might have to have you on the Moneyline show sometime,
bro. Come on. I'll talk to Bet Rivers, make it happen. Make special guest appearance, bro. Let's do it. Let's merge our worlds together.
I love that, Ray. Ray Flores is the man. You guys can catch him on Saturday. He will be out here in LA pretty soon. Ray, good to see you, man. Thank you for coming by.
Thanks. Always a pleasure, Mike. Have a great one. Keep killing it, bro.